This person is drowning in regret. The moment they saw your face again, everything unraveled. It happened in a flash, quick, unexpected, yet so powerful it left them shaken. A single glance at a photograph, your image radiant, calm, maybe even smiling, became a thunderclap that shattered their false peace. Memories they had buried came rushing back like a storm. Memories of betrayal, of silence, of the day they left without explanation. Your picture became a mirror, reflecting not just your face, but the truth they had tried to bury. They had always told others a version of the story that made them the victim, the one who had no choice, the one who did everything right. But in that instant, they felt the crushing weight of realization. What if they were the ones who owed an apology? What if they had always been the one in need of forgiveness? The regret wasn't just about what they lost. It was about knowing that you had already forgiven them silently, while they remained chained to denial. But the aftermath didn't stay hidden between just the two of you. The very moment regret pierced their soul, the atmosphere around them began to shift. Conversations grew uneasy. Secrets slipped out in whispers. Friends who once defended them started to act differently, distracted, curious, and strangely protective when your name came up. One friend mentioned you casually. Another threw out a sharp comment about one of your recent posts. You really messed that one up, didn't you? And then came the confrontation they never imagined. A close friend looked them in the eyes and spoke words that would echo forever. You never told us the whole truth, but someone did. That was the moment Archangel Michael stepped in. And when divine justice enters, even shadows cannot hide from the light. It dawned on them. What if their circle was never truly on their side, but always on the side of truth? What if heaven itself was now speaking through the voices around them? Meanwhile, you had already been receiving signs. Prophetic dreams of crowded rooms with hidden faces, except one. Theirs, turning toward you in fear. You would wake breathless, as though your soul had been running. The number 444 appeared everywhere, on clocks, receipts, license plates, a divine reminder that heaven was shielding you. You had released them long ago, not because you were weak, but because your spirit refused to carry chains that didn't belong to you. You never begged. You never chased. You let them live their story. And now, their story was collapsing while your truth rose higher like the sun after endless night. And others could see it too. Their friends began connecting the dots. Someone asked, if it didn't matter, why does it still eat at you? Another whispered, if you did nothing wrong, why does their peace disturb you so much? The walls of their lies were crumbling. What haunted them most wasn't what you said, it was what you didn't say. Your peace spoke louder than all their excuses. They saw you online, in passing, maybe even in spirit, and their facade cracked. You were no longer the broken version they walked away from. You had risen, transformed in silence, shining brighter than ever. And that terrified them more than anything. Because the one they left behind wasn't waiting in pieces. You had become whole without them. You never sought revenge. You never needed to prove yourself. But heaven had decided that your silence would echo like a trumpet. Archangel Michael, protector of truth and defender of the chosen, began peeling back the layers of what they thought was hidden. They believed their secrets were safe. But their own friends had started to look at them differently. Someone said, you hurt a person who only wanted the best for you. Another questioned, what if this isn't about what happened, but about what you never admitted? And then came the memory that struck them like a knife, the day they left you. Cold, final, convinced they were making the strong choice. Perhaps someone else whispered lies in their ear. Perhaps pride drowned out love. Either way, they believed they had walked away with power. But power without truth rots into poison. And now that poison had begun to eat them from the inside. Every time they scrolled past you, it stung. Not because of what you posted, but because of the undeniable light pouring from you. A light that declared, I don't need closure. I've healed without it. But they hadn't healed. They were still trapped in the very moment they chose to let you go. And now the people around them were beginning to see it too. Their stories no longer aligned. Their excuses cracked under questioning. The final blow came when one of their most loyal friends, someone who once defended them fiercely, had a dream. In it, you were crying silently while others mocked, and this friend could no longer stand by. They woke in a cold sweat, shaken to the core. Quietly, they reached out to someone close to you, and what they discovered broke their loyalty forever. They lied to all of us. That was the moment the dam broke. The friend who once defended them began to speak, and the silence turned into whispers, the whispers into confessions. Screenshots resurfaced. Old messages were pulled out of the shadows. Truth always finds its witness. In that moment, it wasn't just you being defended. Archangel Michael was restoring balance. But what happens when their own friends know more than they ever confessed? Maybe you felt it recently, a sudden heaviness in your chest, tears that came without reason, a wave of emotion you couldn't explain. That was their spirit reaching for you, bleeding regret without words. Not just missing you, hurting because of what they did to you. The truth is they never got over you. Not out of longing, but because they finally saw how wrong they were. And while they tried to rewrite their story, the universe kept rerouting them back to the very moment they denied your light. Now, as more is revealed, they aren't just losing peace. They're losing control of the entire narrative. The people who once clung to their version are starting to believe yours. But what happens when the mask slips in front of everyone? Do you remember the silence that followed their betrayal? The endless nights you questioned your worth? The prayers you sent into the void, and all you received was stillness? That wasn't abandonment. That was preparation. Archangel Michael was gathering truth the way thunder gathers before lightning. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine timing. And now, every ignored message, every missed chance, every time they try to forget has chained them to the memory of you. A chain only heaven can break. Archangel Michael is guiding that energy like a beacon, forcing them to face what they buried. But this is no longer just about regret. It's about exposure. Their friends aren't just questioning. They're revealing. Screenshots, old threads, a voice note never deleted. One piece at a time, the facade is crumbling. And then, the question that silenced the room. Why did you really do it? The answer wasn't noble. It wasn't complicated. It was cowardice. You were honest. You were all in. You saw their soul when they thought no one ever could. And that terrified them. Now that same soul is screaming for redemption. But the people around them aren't so forgiving. You lied, one said, and you made us carry that lie as if it was truth. The mask has fallen, and they're realizing too late that they didn't just betray you. They betrayed the version of themselves that could have been healed by your love. And now, healing may no longer find them. Your name haunts them in places they can't control. In music, in passing conversations, in shows that echo inside jokes only the two of you shared. The synchronicities are relentless. 444, 999 glitches in the matrix. Their phone freezes when they try to delete your pictures. Messages won't send, or worse, go through and are left unanswered. The silence is louder than any reply. And in that silence, they hear everything they've been running from. Because this isn't nostalgia. This is awakening. Painful, raw, undeniable. Your absence has become their teacher. A mirror. A prophecy in disguise. And Archangel Michael is making sure they don't forget, because you were never forgettable. You were divine timing. And now, time itself has turned against them. Because what happens when the universe refuses to let them rest? There was a moment, real, fragile, when they almost reached out. Fingers hovered over the keyboard. The soul trembled. They typed, "I'm sorry I messed up. Can we talk?" But pride still had a voice. And in one breath, they erased it. Not because they didn't mean it, but because fear whispered, "What if they don't forgive you?" That fear has locked them inside a prison of their own making. But Archangel Michael carries a sword that cuts through pride. And as more truth surfaces, that sword is already swinging. People are asking the right questions. People are discovering pieces of your truth, details you never even shared. The walls are closing in, and the light is pouring through every crack. What they saw in your eyes that day was only the beginning. You felt it, haven't you? That emotional release, like something heavy, was finally lifted. Maybe tears came from nowhere. Maybe you felt strangely lighter. That wasn't random. That was a spiritual transfer. As they began to carry the weight of their choices, you were freed from it. Archangel Michael is cutting soul ties, not to erase the past, but to empower your future. You were never meant to be stuck. What once shattered your heart is now breaking, link by link, until it can't bind you anymore. And while you're being released, they're starting to feel the very pain they dismissed in you. The sleepless nights, the second-guessing, the endless wondering if they'll ever get the chance to explain. But time is no longer on their side. The divine doors are shifting, and what they feared most, that you might forget them, is becoming real. Because what happens when you stop looking back, and are the ones left staring? You were never the storm. You were the calm before it. The voice that whispered, "I'm here," even when they gave you no reason to stay. But they mistook patience for weakness. They threw away the shield of your love, leaving themselves exposed to forces they never understood. Now the spiritual warfare they unleashed has come back upon them. Subtle at first, then suddenly. Opportunities slipping through their fingers. Connections fading. Dreams twisting into nightmares. Because when someone tampers with divine energy, the balance must be restored. And Archangel Michael does not ignore injustice. This isn't punishment, it's revelation. It's heaven showing them what they dismissed was sacred. And now even their dreams have become a courtroom. And in every dream, you are the witness. But what if this is only the beginning of their spiritual sentence? They distract themselves with new people, new places, loud laughter in crowded rooms. But none of it sticks, because truth follows them like a shadow. Every conversation circles back to something you once said. Every face reminds them of yours. Not in resemblance, but in absence. Because no one holds space the way you did. No one listened like you did. No one saw them the way you did. You saw the broken parts and still love them. But now the reflection they face is cruel. It shows them everything they could have healed, but didn't. Everything they could have nurtured, but feared. Even the friends who once encouraged their choices are questioning their own role. Maybe we push you to do the wrong thing, one admits. And those words cut deeper than silence. But what if their friends aren't done revealing what they know? Something sacred is unfolding behind the scenes. You may not see it with your eyes, but you can feel it. The shifting, the stirring, the unspoken knowing that something is unraveling in your favor. This isn't coincidence. This is divine reckoning. And you're not at the center as a victim, but as a witness to truth finally being honored. Archangel Michael's message for you today is clear. What was hidden is being exposed. What was lost is being rewritten. The tables are turning. So when you feel that pull in your chest, that pressure in your third eye, trust it. That is heaven making room for your vindication. And soon, their own confessions will betray them. Because one friend, someone you've never even met, saw something. Maybe they overheard a conversation. Maybe they stumbled across an old message never meant to be found. However it happened, it changed everything. And that friend spoke. You were lied to. One voice became two. Two became four. Soon, the circle that once defended them became a circle of whispers, of glances, of silence. You didn't have to say a word. The universe spoke for you. And now, they're more isolated than they have ever been. Not because people hate them, but because truth has become louder than their excuses. And what happens when there's no one left to defend the lie? Suddenly, they're remembering details they thought they had buried. The softness in your voice when you were tired. The look in your eyes when you knew they were lying and chose to love anyway. But those memories don't comfort them anymore. They haunt, because now they finally understand what you carried, what you sacrificed, and what you never received in return. That realization cuts deeper than they ever imagined. What if the version of themselves that existed with you was the best they'll ever be? And what if the version of you that exists now has already outgrown them forever? That fear is sharp. That fear is spiritual, because some lessons don't repeat. And this time, the door may already be closing. But what happens when they try to knock and the lock no longer fits? You are not bitter. You are awakened. You don't crave revenge. You crave alignment. And that is the difference. That is why you are rising. While they spiral, you are stabilizing. While they lose people, you are finding yourself. As the truth continues to unravel around them, it's becoming harder and harder for them to look away. Yes, they still keep your picture. They still replay your words. And now, for the first time, they're asking others about you. Not with arrogance, but with remorse. Whispering, "Do you think they'd ever forgive me?" But here's the truth they don't yet see. This was never about earning your forgiveness. It was about finding honesty within themselves. And that is a journey they cannot take with you. It's a path they must walk alone. But what if they're not strong enough to face what they buried? You've stopped wondering if they'll ever return. That part of you, the one that waited, hoped, and checked your phone for signs, has surrendered. Not in defeat, but in evolution. Because your soul no longer seeks answers from broken places. You became the answer. And now, living in this new frequency of peace, clarity, and divine timing, everything makes sense. Their absence wasn't rejection. It was protection. Their betrayal wasn't cruelty. It was redirection. As they spiral inward, you rise upward. Archangel Michael has cleared your path of delay and deceit. The energy around you feels lighter because it truly is. But what happens when they realize, only now, what they cost themselves?